Okay, we are live. Yes. Hello, friends. Hi, happy Friday. Welcome to today's live stream. I'm really excited to be sharing this one today. I know I say that every week, but I'm really excited to be here. I'm enjoying coming in to my Facebook page on Fridays and sharing a little bit some fun techniques with you. Hi, Nancy. Nancy just popped in, so people are popping in, and yeah, I'm excited to see everyone. And if you're watching this on the replay, hello, welcome. Hi, Judy. Judy just popped in. Hello, ladies. I hope you're all doing well. Let me know how you're doing. Pop it in the comments. It's kind of a super gray, rainy day here in Maryland, but that's okay. We are all good to go, and we're going to have some bright, sunny, super sunshiny colors here today on our tutorial. Okay, so again, happy Friday. I hope you're all doing well. Thanks for joining me live on today's live stream. Today's going to be super, super fun. Yeah, Nancy just said gray day. Yes, super gray day, which has caused me to set up all these lights so that it wouldn't be so dark. So my face looks a little bit blown out, but whatever. We're live and we're having some fun with this. So before we go down to our project cam and talk a bit about washy watercolor with stencils today, I just got a couple announcements. I am going to go over to my little screen share here. Three big things I want to share this week I just lost my screen share. Sorry about that. Three big things I want to share this week. Judy just said it's raining here. I hear you. It's a rainy, rainy day, but that's okay. That's okay. All of our beautiful flowers need the rain, right? Okay, so I'm just going to click over here to my screen share and just share that the link that I have provided in the live stream copy that is right above the live stream here talks a little bit about joining my email list. So here is the link. This is where the link will go. And if you join my email list, you will be getting this month's, this was for the month of May, the Blooming with Joy note card project. And we've been using that project in some of the live streams. We're not going to be using that today, but that's okay. And you'll also get a free download print of one of my butterfly prints. So joining my email list, just wanted to let you know I send an email once a week, sometimes twice if there's something special to share. But I send an email once a week, and it's chock full of what I call like email subscriber exclusives. So these free downloads, discounts to my store, or discounts to my online classes that I only offer to my email subscribers as a gift of grace and a thank you for joining my community. So I wanted to share that this one, this Blooming with Joy note card coloring project is going to be changing for May. So there's going to be a brand new one. And if you're on the email list, you will get it in your email. So super, super fun. Okay, so the link is in the description, but you can also head on over to indigojadeart.com and you can see subscribe right there. Super, super simple. I also wanted to share that I have a brand new card tutorial on my YouTube channel and blog this week. So if you haven't seen that yet, if you're on my email list, you've already seen it. I sent that out on Wednesday. But here's the card tutorial, and it is a little bit of stencil pattern play with oxides and pastiage, which is a texture-based medium that is sold by GINA Designs. So I hope you get a chance to take a look at some of those tutorials that are being offered. So super, super fun. I'm going to switch back over to me. Hello. So If anybody has any questions on the live along the way, just go ahead and share them in the comments, and I'll be able to answer them along the way. And one more thing I want to share is if you are on my email list, or if you follow me on social media or on my Facebook page here, clearly you do because you're here. I have a brand new online watercolor class coming out soon, and it is super, super fun. So I will talk a little bit more about that later, but it is all about butterflies and watercolor and texture techniques, and it is a super, super fun class. So I hope you will join me in that class too. Okay, so today we are going to dive into the project cam, and I am going to click over to the project cam and go down here. So today we're going to talk about washy watercolor effects using stencils. So I have a couple stencils here, and we're going to have some fun with them. So I have I think we're going to play with this one, this little kind of mermaid scale stencil. And I've got two different kinds of paper here. So these stencils are from GINA. They're super, super fun. Oh, thank you, Judy. She said she's excited about the Whimsical and Wonky Flutters class. I am too. I'm super excited. I can't wait to share it. I just love sharing. I know that I say this on all of my live streams, and you hear me say this a lot, but I believe that making time to create something with your hands is one of the most loving things you can do for your self-care. And I call it crafting your joy. So that's why my whole online classroom is called Craft Your Joy, and you'll hear me say those words often. So I just feel like the time that we take to play and use our supplies is really one of those wonderful things that we can do for self-care. So wouldn't you agree, everyone? Wouldn't you agree? Yes. Okay. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about 4 ways that we can achieve washy watercolor effects using stencils. So I like using stencils in my paper crafting projects to create backgrounds for my cards or my die cuts. So like here are some backgrounds that I have created with the stencils, creating that washy watercolor look. And sometimes I will use these backgrounds to die cut my pieces out for a little bit of extra color, texture, and fun on my card projects. So I am going to walk through today. We're going to use the stencil. I'm going to walk through 2 different kinds of paper here. So this is the 100% cotton paper, and this is the wood pulp paper. So this would be, on the last couple of live streams, I've been talking about the differences in paper. So here is the Arteza 100% cotton paper that I love, and I love the Bee Paper Company paper, and you guys have heard me talk about that a lot. But that paper has been very, very difficult to get. And we've talked a bit about the Canson XL paper that is cold pressed as well. But that paper is what we would call a wood pulp paper. So today I'm going to show you the washy watercolor techniques on both papers so that we can see if there's a difference. And I'm here to tell you that there isn't that much of a difference. There's just a difference in the amount of water we want to add to the project to get that washy watercolor effect. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to pull some oxides. So here I have oxides, I have distress ink, and I have some dye inks. And we're going to do all 3 of these inks. These are 3 kinds of inks that are most common in our paper crafting projects that we enjoy, that we love. So I thought we would dig them out, and I'm going to show you how we're going to be able to create these washy watercolor effects with them. So I have these blender brushes. These are from Tailored Expressions, and I got them from my local scrapbook store owned by Tracy Back, and that is Photo Scraps in Sykesville, Maryland. And I am digging these because they have the colored handles, so I know that I can use them with any of my color mediums and use them in that color. So it's kind of a nice little visual for me, and it's working. It's working. It's working. Okay, so here is my cotton paper. Here's my wood pulp paper. Let's go ahead and start with the cotton paper first. And I have this stencil. So there's two ways that I put my stencil down onto my craft mat. You can use this pixie spray, which is like a light tack repositionable adhesive for stencils. I really like this. This is from ThermoWeb, and it's a really, really nice spray that you can use to create that light tack on the back of your stencil. And it works really, really well with watercolor paper. And I talked a lot about that in the this week's tutorial. Today I'm going to use some of this purple tape. So this is a repositionable, like a painter's tape. So like if you went to Home Depot and you got some painter's tape, that would work too. I like this purple tape because it's quick, it's easy. You can kind of use it over and over again. And it also doesn't stick to, I need to move this up a little bit. It also doesn't stick to watercolor paper. So let's just get going, shall we? I'm going to start with the oxides, and I'm going to use the Salty Ocean. So I'm taking my blender brush here, and I'm just going to start in the middle and use that blender brush to work that oxide into the stencil. And the oxides will go onto the watercolor paper really, really nicely. I'm going to come in with a little bit of this squeeze lemonade and just kind of go around. And where the squeeze lemonade mixes with the blue, I'm already getting the green. So that's interesting. Okay. So I'm going to peel this off, and you can see the crispness of the stencil, but we really want this to give us more of a washy watercolor effect. So I'm going to take some water and I'm going to spritz it, and I'm kind of spritzing it from afar because you can see that that Distress Oxide is already starting to want to move. So the techniques that I'm sharing today with the stencils give us these washy watercolor effects, but with a more controlled kind of look and feel. So I can move this around a little bit, and I can get this to move, and I can have this background be washy, watercolory, but it's very controlled because we still see a lot of that definition from the stencils. Love that! Okay, let's go ahead and do the same technique with the same stencil and the oxides on the wood pulp paper, which is the Canson paper. So you can see the 100% cotton. You can see the fibers in the paper. You can see it spreading around. Oh, that's super nice. I'm really loving that. I love this stencil. I love those colors, the way those two blended together. I digressed a little bit, ladies. Okay, so I'm going to take the same stencil, and I'm going to pop it down onto the mat and right over top of the cellulose wood pulp paper. And I'm going to come in with the oxides again. We're going to go with Salty Ocean. I'm going to come in the middle. And the oxides are just really nice because they're pigment based, and we're able to get just these really, really nice blends. Really super smooth. Don't have to work really hard at all on this watercolor paper. So really, really controlled, really, really clean. You could just let it ride like this if you want to. The watercolor paper has some texture in it. Now with this, all of the ink is sitting on top of the paper. It's not going into the fibers of the paper, of the 100% cotton paper at all. So I'm just going to give this a little spritz. And I'm really, really doing this from afar because you can, the watercolor is not seeping or sinking into the paper as much as it would on the 100% cotton paper. So you can get these washy watercolory effects, but you can see that with the wood pulp paper, the Canson paper, it's a lot more controlled. So we're not getting all these bleeds that you would get over here with our 100% cotton paper. So it's a difference in look, and it really is a difference in what you are trying to achieve for your backgrounds. Whether you want more of a washy, controlled look, you can see that there's a little bit of bleeding there, but not a ton, right? Or a little bit more like, holy smokes, the water is here, and we've got washy watercolor going. So that's the difference between the two papers. With the oxides, remember the oxides are pigment, they're a little bit thicker, so they are really fun, and they are water reactive. Okay, but they're like a matte finish, so they're not as bright. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to do the same technique. Let's tidy up a little bit here. We're going to see the same technique with some distress inks on the two different papers. So I have the 100% cotton paper, and I have the cellulose. I keep calling it the cellulose paper. It's the Canson, the wood pulp paper. Now, I don't want to clean this stencil right now, so I'm going to grab another stencil and do this technique. So let's grab this stencil. This is like a super fun one. Let's grab this one. This one has a little bit of pixie spray on the back, but I'm going to tape it down. So I'm going to lay this one down on the 100% cotton paper. Okay, so let's go ahead in here with the distress inks. Now, we know that our distress inks are super water reactive, and they are super fun to work with because of that. So I'm going to dip this blue in here, and I'm going to do something very similar to what I did. Now you can see that adding the distress inks to the watercolor paper, it isn't like a super solid like it is when we add the oxides. We got a lot more of a solid when we added the oxide. So we have to kind of work with these distress inks a little bit more to get them into the grooves and the texture of the paper, of the watercolor paper. But look at that, and we've got some purples there. So this is the 100% cotton paper, and I'm going to spray it and spritz it so we can see immediately how that distress oxide ink is, not oxide, I'm sorry, distress ink just immediately starts to react to the water and move into the fibers. So we get that whole like nice super duper washy watercolor effect. Oh, digging it, loving it. Okay, now going to do the same technique with the Canson paper and lay my stencil down here. Anyhow, here is the Canson paper, which is the wood pulp paper. Now let's take a look at what this is going to look like when we add the distress inks to the center. I pressed a little bit harder so that I could get it into the paper, but right away, take a look at the Canson paper. When we put that distress ink on that watercolor paper, it automatically just kind of lays on top of the surface of the paper. So with our cotton paper, it was a little bit harder to work with to get that color into the grooves of the stencil. So, but it did give us more of a washy effect. With the wood pulp paper, it lays on the surface of the paper, much like it would if you use like a GINA, like our regular white cardstocks. So take a look at how I'm working this into the stencil. Very similar, but you can see that there's less white of the paper showing. So as I get my reveal, that reveal was a much more intense reveal, tense color. So as I'm spritzing it, I get more of a droplet look, a washy droplet look with this paper versus the 100% cotton, where you can see we've got these spidery kind of looks and feels here, which makes it really like super watery and washy. So there's our difference here with Distress ink and water. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm really digging it on the Canson paper. Now, I always grab the 100% cotton paper, but I'm really digging the way this looks with the Distress Oxides on the Canson paper. It's giving me that washy watercolor effect, but again, in more controlled. I'm not really digging all the spidery look, you know, the blooms that we're getting here with our cotton paper. But you know what? When they dry, they're going to look different, and I'm going to love them all. Okay, so let's tidy up just a smidge as I move into the next one. I've got a piece of 100% cotton paper here, and I'm going to bring out our dye-based inks. So here are our two dye-based inks from GINA, and I'm going to use a different stencil. Wow, I've got a lot of stencils I'm going to have to clean. So talking about cleaning up your stencils, I clean them by just using soap and water, and I'll just put them in the sink and I'll just clean them up with some soap and water, and usually all of the inks or the residue of anything that I'm working with will come right off. If I'm using texture paste or things like that, it might take a little bit more effort to get them to come off, but that's okay. Okay, so I am going to work with the dye inks. So this is Wild Dandelion, this is Blue Raspberry. So these dye inks, you could use any kind of dye ink. Now, dye inks are not, you got to work a little bit quicker with these inks because they are not immediately water reactive. Now, some dye inks that are out there on the market now are immediately water reactive. There's a couple different lines. I have no problem doing this technique with GINA's inks. I'm just kind of going around here. I'm going to get a little bit of greens because I tend to work a little bit faster. If I took a few minutes to let this dry, I probably wouldn't get the results that I'm looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and spritz it. And I can get those ink colors to move. But what I love about the dye inks is look at the little speckles. So it absorbs the color, it absorbs the water into this 100% cotton paper, but it gives you these little speckles, which I'm kind of digging. I really like that for a washy watercolor effect. We are getting our spidering here, which is kind of, you know, typical of what happens on our 100% cotton paper. But the vibrancy here is really like super, super bright. Super bright. Oh, I'm digging it. Loving it. Okay. Let's move on to the wood pulp paper with the stencils. I'm going to take that same stencil and put it down on this wood pulp paper. Now, what we know about the wood pulp paper, it's 100, you know, it is watercolor paper, but it's not 100% cotton. So let's see what happens when we go ahead and do the same technique with our, oh, I'm picking up some of the, now you could clean them in between, and I probably should have cleaned this stencil in between, but it's like a happy little accident, happy little extra. I'm going to use these to kind of come around here. Okay. Now I'm going to pull this off. We've got, and here is our reveal, and that is an intense color reveal. But you can see that the dye inks are sitting on top of the paper. Let's hit it with some water. and see what happens. So they react. I hit it with a lot of water. They react, and again, we get, they're very, very vibrant. Over here, we've got those water splashes and things, you know, that spidering that we get from our 100% cotton paper. And from our Canson paper, we're getting that watercolor effect. We're getting that spidering, not the spidering, I'm sorry. We're getting more of the droplet look. And I am digging that. Oh, so all this to say, I wanted to do the test between the 100% cotton papers and the wood pulp papers this week because we've been talking a lot about watercolor effects and how paper makes a huge difference in what you can achieve. So I'm gonna move this over here. These are the 3 tests that we've done. So here is the 100% cotton paper, and then our other paper here is our wood pulp paper, which is our Canson paper. So we can see a bit some of our differences here. Ah, look at the vibrancy here. You get a lot of vibrancy with the dye inks and our stencils, and you get a lot. Here is the distress inks, and here are the oxides. So our oxides are giving us that matte finish. Our distress inks are giving us that watercolory finish. And our dye inks are giving us some watercolor effects, but really, really bold, rich color. Oh, I'm digging it. I'm liking it a lot. I'd love to know what your experiences have been with stencils and how you've used them, and do you enjoy using them? I honestly, like I said at the beginning before we started, I have a massive stash of stencils, but I really like to use them to create these card backgrounds. So I'm probably going to cut this up and use it for a card background, or use it to do a die cut piece. And now I've got 6 things that I've made here. So I've got all these fun little patterned papers, so to speak, that I can use for my stencils. I mean, for my card bases. All right, I want to do one more technique and share that with you. Judy said, Judy said, I am addicted to stencils. You know what, Judy? I didn't think I was, but apparently so, as I started to look at all of the different stencils that I have and like how much, how many that I've used on the regular. I just love it. So I'm going to I've grabbed this pad of 100% cotton paper, and I'm going to lay the whole pad down. Whoops, got a little caught there. And I want to show you one more technique with paint. So I'm going to take this circle stencil. Now, my circle stencil is a little bit warped because I, you know, got it a little bit too close to my heat tool one day. So it's a little warped, which is kind of affects what I want to do a little bit here. So I'm going to put a little bit more of this tape down. So in the last couple live streams, I've been sharing different tutorials using your pan watercolors or liquid watercolors. Now, I've got a set of pan watercolors here, and I want to show you how you can use your watercolors with your stencils, and you can paint it right in. Now, the result is going to be a little bit wonky, but I kind of like wonky. And if you've been following my channel or you've been following me for a while, you know that wonky is sort of part of my daily chatter. So I'm just going to I'm going to grab some of this watercolor, and it is juicy, super juicy. And then I'm just going to go ahead and just start painting it in. And just use a lot of water and just kind of paint in some of this watercolor. This is messy, super messy. and I'm kind of pushing my brush into the stencils, but I cannot control the water that's going to flow underneath the stencil. I can't control it. The only way to control it is to use less water. So it's going to get up underneath the stencil. If you want more of a controlled look, you could use the stencil as kind of a template for you. And you could go in with your watercolors and just kind of color them in. That's one way to do it. I'm going to pull this off and reveal the mess that I have made. So you can see where it went up underneath. You can see here where it's a little bit more refined and defined, and you can see here where it is completely defined. So you can use your stencils and use your watercolors and just go ahead and have at it, or use your watercolor sprays or your different kinds of mediums that are sprays and get that watercolor effect. Just know that this is more of a distressed, kind of messy look, but I kind of dig it, you know, and I think it kind of has a place. So if I was going to take a stencil and, take a die and maybe die cut it out, that would be kind of fun to use that as a background. Okay. So I've shared several techniques using our stencils, and I am digging the way all these came out. I'm going to bring them back in because they're drying. They're a lot more dry now. Oh, look at the dye inks. They both kind of look the same when they dry. This one is the Canson paper, and this one is the 100% cotton. I wanted to do these tests on the two papers today, like I said, because I really wanted to have options for doing this technique, this washy watercolor technique with stencils, but in different papers, so that you didn't feel like you always had to use the 100% cotton to make it happen, to get that washy look. So here's our 100% cotton. Here is the Canson. Oh, look at some of those nice little droplets in there. And this did a little bit of spidering too, which is kind of fun. Now oxides. Oxides give us less of a washy look. Oxides are very matte. Here's the 100% cotton. We've got some spidering, but just a little bit on the wood pulp paper, a little bit of movement, a little bit watercolory, but a lot more controlled versus definitely these look like watercolor. Oh, so much fun. Holy smokes. That was a really super, super quick tutorial today. Oh my goodness. So I would love to know how you use your stencils. Do you use them on your card projects, on your mixed media projects, or your paper crafting projects? How do you use your stencils? How are we using the huge stash of stencils that we have, right? So, okay, so that was a really super quick tutorial today. I am loving the different things that we can do with our stencils and our watercolor mediums. So we're looking at the distress oxides, so the distress inks, and the dye-based inks, to use them with our stencils in a way that we get those watercolor looks and feels. So I love it. Love it. So we are that's it for today. It was a really super quick tutorial. Next week, I'm going to be coming back in, and it's going to be a little bit of a mystery. I would love to hear from you what kinds of techniques or kinds of ideas that you would like to see. Oh, thank you, Judy. What you would like to see on the live stream. But I will be back next Friday with a brand new live stream tutorial. It'll also be our last Friday in May. Holy smokes, already coming to the end of May. So yeah, I can't believe how quick this month has gone. So If you have any questions on the replay, just go ahead and put them in the comments and I'm happy to come in and answer them. And I would really, really love to know how you are using your stencils and what you enjoy most about them. And if you decide to try one of these watercolor techniques, please come back and share it with me so that I can take a peek. I would love to see what you create. It brings me so much joy and it just makes me so happy. Okay, so I hope you have a really great holiday weekend and I will see you next week. And in the meantime, I hope you get a little bit of time to craft your joy and I'll see you soon. Thanks so much for joining me. Please consider sharing the joy by liking this video and subscribing to this channel. And I hope you'll come on in and take a look at some more of my card and watercolor tutorials on this channel. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.